The Packers had a good D. There was a TD pass from Henry. The Chiefs are spiraling. The weather from San Francisco was a viral thing. And the Monday night game was ugly. Welcome to the Mish. Alright, people. Welcome to, what is this, week 8 episode of the Mish. We've got ourselves a spotted cow. And, we'll get into it. Alrighty, we had a couple trades in the past week. State traded Henry Ruggs to Colin for Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders has not been super great the last month or so. He was pretty good week 1. And then Henry Ruggs, he's the second or third target in Las Vegas, but he's always got that chance at a long touchdown with his speed. Now, Sanders is hurt, which happened on the weekend. And he'll be out for a few weeks, which is not good. In general, I'd probably rather have a running back than a receiver, but the injury, it definitely changes things. In the end, both of them got what they wanted. Colin, a receiver, and State, a running back. In the end, though, Colin, I gave him a B for that trade, and I gave State Farm a C+. Moving us on to the second trade of the weekend. I traded Deontay Johnson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derek to Chris Godwin and a 2022 sixth round pick. Well, this week that trade definitely 100% was in my favor, as Godwin scored 25.1 points and those two combined for 0. Obviously, yeah, Deontay was on a bye, but Amon-Ra put up a goose egg. Going forward, though, however, I do think that Godwin and Johnson will be pretty close to each other. Godwin still does have his bye coming up, whereas obviously Johnson just got past his. And on top of that, I do think that Johnson will have a better stretch slightly, or, rest of the season, just because, the number of mouths to feed in their respective offenses. As for Amon-Ra versus the pick, I would personally rather have a 6th round pick than Amon-Ra St. Brown. So in the end, I think this trade is pretty close, but I do think it favors me slightly. So I gave myself an A-, and I gave Derek a B+. So that was the transactions from the past week. Alrighty, moving us on to the game recaps. First up, me versus Derek. It seemed like it was going to be a blowout early on, and then it seemed like it might be kind of close, but then it ended up kind of being a blowout. I'm glad, I made that trade with Derek, because, he had Godwin, and now I have Godwin. But in the end, it wouldn't have mattered, because I beat him by enough where that point switch didn't matter at all. I ended up winning 134.9 to 75.44, and 100% of people got that matchup correct. Not going to be the only time this episode where everybody picked the same answer. Moving us on to Caleb versus Fiala, a much closer matchup, and the highest scoring matchup combined of the week was relatively close, but we had a lot of close matches this week, and this was probably the 4th closest. Fiala ended up winning 150.54 to 138.46, and Fiala was the highest scoring team on the week, so you win yourself a beer. And 83% of people got this one correct. Moving us on to Adam versus Lincoln. Not as high scoring nor as close, but still decently good scores. Both teams cracked 100, which is something you can't say about every team. This week, in the end, Lincoln got the win 122.98 to 101.72, and 67% of people got that one correct. Moving us on to probably the total, just kidding, I was going to say the cumulative lowest scoring matchup of the week, but there's a lower one. But we do have the lowest score of the week in this matchup. It was relatively low scoring, but not all that close. Bruce got the victory here, 108.32 to a nice 69.06 to Brian, and 50% of people got that one correct, so pretty split on that one, despite it being kind of a blowout. Moving us on to the remaining scores of this week. All 3 matchups are very close, all within a point or 2 of each other. And first up is State versus T-Corn. This one was decently high scoring, probably right around the middle. Both teams just about 100 points. T-Corn here got the win, 104.22 to 102.34, so only a difference of less than 2 points, and 0% of people got that one correct. So we've had our first 100% correct Peep matchup and 0% matchup correct. Yeah, very interesting stuff. Moving us on to not even the closest matchup of the week, despite this one being a difference of just over a point. Abby versus Colin. This one was the total average was the one of their highest scoring matchups, probably the second highest scoring matchup of the week. Abby here just barely got the victory over Colin, 133.14 to 132.34, and 67% of people got that one correct. Moving us on to the final and closest matchup of not only the week, but I would guess the season so far. Michael versus Sam. Man, this one came down to Monday night. I don't remember who was playing on each of these teams, but I know it was decided on Monday. Sam narrowly escaped with the victory, beating Michael 89.98 to 89.38, a difference of 0.6 points. So that's just 6 yards. Crazy stuff. Only 50% of people got that one correct. For the week, I went 5-2. Season record is 28-21, so not terrible. Weekly points leader, State Farm and Lincoln got 6. State Farm is up to 40 now for total, and he has the best average, of course, with 5.7. So that will do it for the matchups from last week. Alrighty, that brings us on to the power rankings. At 14, we've got Adam staying right there at the bottom. You did decent this past week. I believe you cracked 100 points. Yeah, 101.72, so not too bad. Definitely not the worst scoring team on the week, but I still think your team is the worst. You lost to Lincoln, not so close of a matchup, and it does not get easier for you this upcoming week as you do have a tough opponent. Moving us on to number 13, we got Brian. You dropped one spot from 12 after your loss to Bruce, in which you had the lowest score on the week. I believe you did start some guys that didn't actually play, like Darren Waller didn't play, and I'm not sure if Trey Sermon got any action, but he got 0, so that's 2 goose eggs. Obviously would have helped your total score in the end, but maybe it would have been enough. Anyway, much like Adam, doesn't get much easier this upcoming week as you do have another tough opponent. Moving us on to number 12, we've got Sam. Despite your victory last week, you're still kind of one of the bottom teams, with your record being 2-5. In fact, the 10 through 14, all of those teams are 2-5. You're right there in the middle of the 2-5 teams. You won, like I said last week. But I honestly don't know if you're going to do that this week. So we'll hope for the best for you. But yeah, that's Sam at 12. Number 11, we've got Derek. Not the greatest performance last week, but you did have some key players on bye, Austin Eckler being one of them. So hopefully he'll come back for you this week and do well. You're going up against an opponent that you will need some points, as this guy has scored a decent amount of points on the season. So that is Derek at 11. Number 10, we've got Colin, the highest rated team out of the 2-5 teams. You scored a lot of points last week, almost beating Abby, who is one of the powerhouses in the league. You did climb one spot from 11, and this upcoming week you've got a matchup against a team that both of you could use a win, but we'll see who gets it. Moving us on to number 9, we've got State Farm 3-4. You dropped one spot from number 8 last week after your loss to T-Corn, which was very close. Everybody thought you were going to win, literally. That took the poll, but 'twas not to be. We'll see if you can rebound this upcoming week against an opponent that could also use a win. So that is number 9. Number 8, we've got Michael. Number 4 last week, so you dropped quite a bit. You are 4-3, so you do have a winning record. So that is good. Had a kind of a devastating loss to Sam. You definitely wish you would have had some of your starters like Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook out there, but sometimes that just happens. You are going up against an opponent you can probably beat, depending if you guys show up or not. So that is Michael at 8. Number 7, I've got myself climbed up 2 spots from number 9 the week prior. One game below 500, so I'll see if I can turn that into a 500 record on the season next week. I do have a tough opponent, though, however, so it might be a bit tough, but I currently am liking my chances. So that is me at number 7. Number 6, we've got Bruce. Not the best score for yourself last week with some of your big players on bye, especially Josh Allen and Adam Thielen. You also had Laviska Shenault and Dawson Knox on a bye. So, some of your big guys on a bye, but you were able to pull out with the win. You were number 6 last week, so no change there. But you're definitely happy to have those guys off bye this upcoming week, as you do face a very strong opponent. So that is Bruce at number 6. Number 5, we've got Caleb, who has dropped 3 spots from number 2 last week. Lost to Fiala, but he did score the most on the week, something that you've done before in the past. So we'll see if you can turn things around this upcoming week. Hopefully not, for someone's sake, but we'll see how you do. Moving on to number 4, we've got Alex Fiala. It felt only right to put you above Caleb because you kind of beat him pretty good last week and you scored the most points on the week despite having a worse record than Caleb. Moving up 3 spots from number 7 this upcoming week. I don't really quite remember what your bye situation looks like this upcoming week, but I'm not sure if you're going to need your best guns out there anyways for this next opponent you got coming up. So that is 4 with Fiala. Number 3, we've got Lincoln. I believe you're currently on a 5-game win streak. So that's quite impressive. Last week you had a pretty solid score, probably right there in the middle for the total for the entire league, going up against an opponent that you probably should beat. So we'll see if you can move it to 6 wins in a row. So that's Lincoln at 3. Moving us on to number 2, we've got Abby, moving up 1 spot from number 3, just consistently putting up solid numbers. And this past week, it's included with 133.14. Cooper Kupp does it again, scored 38 points. You're probably going to need a lot of those points upcoming because you've got a pretty decent opponent coming up. So we'll see if you can keep that train rolling and continue on your strong winning streak. Probably, maybe, I don't know. But definitely a guy that does have a pretty solid run going is number 1. We've got T-Corn, the only 6-1 team in the league. You were number 1 last week, so staying right where you were. You beat State Farm in a matchup. A lot of people, actually everybody thought you'd lose, but it was very close and snuck away with that one. Coming up, you've got an opponent that is probably a bit easier of a matchup. I believe you probably had some guys on a bye. You had, your big guys, Herbert, CeeDee Lamb. So I'm sure you're going to be happy to get those guys back. But yeah, that'll do it for the power rankings. Alrighty, moving us on to this week's game predictions. People seemed to like the just kind of general overview of the matchups. So I'm going to keep doing that, I think, for this upcoming season. So starting off with me versus Caleb. I've got guys coming back from bye, Amari Cooper, and we'll see if I play Chase Claypool, but he's also coming off bye. You've got Mike Williams over there, Caleb. So I'm sure you'll be starting him over guys like AJ Green or Nelson Aguilar. You do have a kicker on bye, so we'll see if you can replace him, which, not too hard. But there are going to be some pretty solid running backs in this matchup with Kamara, Taylor, and Derrick Henry. So it should be a very interesting matchup, but I will pick myself for this one. We'll see. My running backs have been crushing it lately, so I'm hoping that they can do that again. Moving us on to Fiala versus Adam. Adam's been hurt with injuries, and now he's got some guys on bye. Derek Carr, your quarterback, and your defense in the Ravens are on bye this upcoming week, so you're going to have to replace them. And you do have some guys that are currently out that are in your starting lineup, like T.Y. Hilton and Rob Gronkowski, and then there's Jarvis, who is questionable. So we'll see if you can get those guys replaced. And then Patrick Mahomes on the other side is also questionable, but he's expected to play. I think this game won't be very close at all. And this was very close to being my lock pick for the week. In fact, the first 3 matchups I'm covering this week are very close to being lock picks. With one of them being it. So I'm picking Fiala in this matchup. That'll move us on to Brian versus Lincoln. This one, we've got some guys on bye. For Brian, we've got Rashad Bateman and Darren Waller, who did not play last week. You do have some guys coming back from bye with Zeke and Trevor Lawrence and Justin Jefferson. So that's probably pretty happy for you over there. On Lincoln's side of the ball, you got some Najee Harris coming back, some Keenan Allen. Let's see, who else? I think that's it for guys coming back on bye for you there, but I just think Lincoln's got this one lockdown. Lincoln is my pick for this matchup, and he is my lock pick for the week. Moving us on to State Farm versus Derek. Two teams coming off losses, and doing a quick scan through. Not looking like there's too many bye issues for either of you. You do, State Farm, have that Devontae Adams COVID issue, which we'll see if he can get that resolved by Thursday. So kind of a tall ask there for him, but he could do it. And then obviously Miles Sanders is maybe going to miss this upcoming week. We'll see if he does. But I am going to be picking Derek for this matchup. I just think Derek's got some solid guys coming off by in Austin Eckler and Deontay Johnson. So I think they can come out and perform and give Derek a much-needed win. Moving us on to Bruce versus Abby. Two pretty strong teams with solid quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. And then obviously Cooper Kupp and Tyreek Hill are very solid as well. Deebo Samuel and Adam Thielen. And then matchup between two former teammates, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, with Ertz obviously being in Arizona now. Got some guys coming back off by for you, Bruce, with Adam Thielen, Laviska Shenault, and obviously Josh Allen. Do have some bye issues on Abby's side with Mark Andrews, but that's about it. I think this is going to be a very interesting and close matchup. But I just got to stick with the team that's hot right now, Abby. I think Abby's going to win this matchup, and Abby's probably going to maybe win. We'll see. Moving us on to our next matchup, we've got Sam versus T-Corn. So we've got some guys coming back off bye for both teams. The quarterbacks, Justin Herbert and Dak Prescott, and then, as I mentioned before, CeeDee Lamb for T-Corn, so I'm sure you'll be happy to get those guys back in your lineup. And Sam does have some bye guys with Josh Jacobs and Dan Carlson, your kicker, which, we can obviously replace a kicker, but Josh Jacobs might be a bit more difficult. You do have Naheem Hines, who I'm sure you'll plug in, as I'm pretty confident Saquon will not play this week. If he does, I'm sure you'll happily welcome back into your lineup, but with all that said, I will be picking T-Corn for this matchup. Moving us on to the final matchup of the week, we've got Colin versus Michael. As I mentioned before, we've got some guys returning from bye for Colin, including Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook. Obviously, two very solid players. And then your kicker, Tyler Bass, who is pretty good because he's on one of the best offenses in the league in Buffalo. Looking at your bench there, Michael, not really too many bye issues. You do have some buys over on Colin's side, though, with Henry Ruggs and the Hollywood Brown on bye, along with Devonta Freeman. And they do have Nick Chubb and Antonio Brown, who are currently listed out, that are in your starting lineup, so you may need to scramble to find yourself another running back. But you do have Marvin Jones that you can plug in for Antonio should he not play. For this matchup, I will be picking Colin, though, as my upset pick for the week. And that'll do it for this week's matchups. So this weekend is Halloween. I hope everyone has a spooky, scary time. And that'll just about do it, I guess. So, thanks for watching. And with that, thank you and thank you. Alright, for this week we'll be flipping this can on Adam. You recently said that you wish you could shotgun more, because you haven't in a while, so we'll see if I can make your dreams come true. Oh, that was so close. Next time I'll get you, buddy, don't you worry.